ever look back at a chapter in your life, specifically a relationship, whether it's platonic or it's romantic, and ask yourself a question that I think most of us we've all asked, but it seems to be the question that's harder to articulate. How did I even end up in this relationship with these people in the first place? How did I get here? It's not just the pain of the breakup, it's something deeper than that. And I know specifically for me, it was that sinking realization that I just spent months or maybe even years in a situation that deep down, I already knew I should have never been there in the first place. Welcome back to this series entitled Get Healed with Me. My name is Charisma Freeman, and today I really want to talk to you all about the healthy conclusion. We're going to discuss the complexities of moving on from the wrong choice. We're going to talk about the shame of wasted time and the lack of self-awareness that gets us into these messes and learn how to forgive ourselves for loving the wrong person. I know this seems like it might be something that a lot of people are talking about, but I want to talk to you from my own lived experience and the lack of self-awareness. Let's just be honest, right? When we realize we dated someone, or we entered into any type of relationship that was wrong for us, we automatically jump to, the blame game. We blame them. We might say they're toxic. They were unavailable. They were chaotic. And even though these revelations may be true, there's still something with regard to the healthy connection that I think is important for all of us, because the healthy connection starts with a pivot. It starts when we stop looking at them and start looking at the version of us that chose them. I think this is part of the dilemma that most of us face with relationships. And God knows I'm still learning as I continue to grow and move forward, that I'm going to repeat the same relationship patterns if I continue to live in old spaces. So, with that being said, we often choose partners not based on who they are, but based on what we are lacking at that moment or at that time in our lives. This is where the power or the lack of self-awareness comes in, right? When you enter the relationship, what exactly is it that you're looking for? Or what were you looking for? Were you choosing a partner? Or were you choosing a distraction? Or if you're like me, you were choosing a savior. When we lack self-awareness, we are blind to our own voids. We let someone in simply because they knocked on the door and not necessarily because they were, a good guest. We ignore the red flags because the red flags, let's be honest, they look exciting. That it brings a level of excitement because there is an unhealed heart. When your heart is not healed, the thing that's bad for you, it's crazy because it's more appealing. If you're looking back now, wondering why you ignored your intuition, you were just disconnected from yourself. You were just disconnected in that moment, and that is okay. There is an emotional aftermath that I think most people just kind of dance over, or, you kind of move over without really looking at it. Now, that emotional aftermath is somewhat like a hangover. And I don't mean like alcohol. I mean an emotional hangover, or the realization that you made the wrong choice. There's a very specific cocktail of emotions that comes with this, and if we want to be honest, if we can be honest, regret, wishing you could get that time back. I mean, there's embarrassment, you wondering what your friends and family thought while you were trying to make it work with the wrong person. And then there's this level of self betrayal, the feeling that you abandon your own standards. And I don't know if any of you can relate to that, but I know that those three things were pressing on me. It's incredibly complex to mourn a relationship that you know was bad. It's a confusing, heart-wrenching, a gripping type of grief that you aren't necessarily missing the person. You are, I don't know how to say it, like you're mourning the potential of the relationship. You're mourning the time you invested. And this is often where we get stuck. We beat ourselves up. We say, I should have known better. I should have known better. But I want to say this to you, and I want you to really listen to me. You cannot judge your past self with your current wisdom. The only person, or the only reason, I said person, the only reason that you have the wisdom that you have right now is because you went through the experience. You went through that hardship. You went through that wrong choice. You paid a high price for this lesson. So I'm going to tell you, don't throw away the lesson. Don't throw away the lesson by drowning yourself in shame. The healthy conclusion is not something that you are going to reach overnight, because the question becomes, how do you move on? A healthy conclusion isn't just signing divorce papers, even though I thought it was, or blocking a number. I thought that too. It's an internal shift. We have to acknowledge the role that we played, not to blame yourself, right? I couldn't blame myself for my choices, but to empower myself. And I want you to be empowered. If you chose that individual because you were lonely, I want you to acknowledge the loneliness. If you chose them because you didn't feel like you deserved better, I need you to acknowledge that insecurity. And while you're doing all of that, I want you to reframe the mistake. I don't want you to call it a mistake. I want you to call it data collection. Stop calling it a failure. Call it, like I said a few minutes ago, you can call it data collection. You now have a massive database, or a massive, I don't know, storage bin, if you will, on what you don't want. That is, it's valuable, and incredibly valuable. You know what anxiety feels like. At least I do. Because anybody that has been in a relationship, whether it's platonic or romantic, that wasn't right for you, it sent you on some emotional roller coaster. It would put you on a roller coaster. It puts you on a roller coaster because while you're trying to be with the individual, you're dealing with the discomfort of what you sacrificed to be with them. And your body knows it. And it tells its own story, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. So you'll recognize peace. I've learned what peace really looks like, because I went through those moments of anxiety. I went through those moments of uncertainty. And when peace finally arrived, I was just like, oh, light bulb. This is what it's supposed to be like. And if I could tell you anything else, I would tell you, forgive the version of you that stayed. Forgive the version of you that stayed. Now, somebody might hear that and, you know, you may not receive it right away. And I'm going to be honest with you. This is where I am in my healing journey because I allowed myself to enter into spaces and I held on thinking that those spaces were going to change. Those people were going to change. My marriage was going to change. And truthfully, when I realized the version of me that stayed too long was trying to survive in an area that I invited myself into, I was hopeful. I was trying to see the best in my marriage. I was trying to see the best in my relationships. But even though I was trying, oh my God, I'm getting emotional. Even though I was trying to see the best, I realized and I had to separate my discomfort. I had to separate where I was and realize that the ability to stay in the wrong situation, even though it was wrong, it's a good trait. All right. It's a good trait, but it has to be redirected because that good trait was being gobbled up by the wrong person. So that's something that I've decided I'm not going to kill that. And if I could tell you anything, I would tell you, don't kill that part of you. Don't kill the part of you that is long suffering. Don't kill the part of you that has the ability to fight when things are uncomfortable. You just have to get to the place that I'm learning to get to where you protect those traits better with the next relationship. You protect them better by making decisions or entering into relationships that are mutually beneficial, that are fluid in nature. There are so many people, and this is something I'm realizing, there are so many people who are invested in taking from you. And there are so many opportunities where you may be overly overly indulgent in giving yourself. If you're like me, I know I'm the person, I want the person that I'm with. I want my romantic partner to be satisfied. And I'm not talking sexually. I mean, I'm just a believer that there are needs that need to be met and there are emotional attachments that need to be made. And when you feed these attachments with healthy things and, you're giving and receiving and it's reciprocal, it's fluid, it creates a union that some of us have never experienced. Never experienced. And unfortunately for me, with the understanding that this type of fluidity or this fluidness exists, I just didn't have the right person to 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 reveal the power of that type of exchange. So I'm learning that my next venture, whatever I do next, I have to protect myself, but also be open to the fact that my partner likewise is going to need to be protected. My friendships will need to be protected. And I know because of bad experiences, and we'll get into, what some of those experiences were in another or later episode, because as you can see, it's a lot to go through. I want you all, without going too far, I want you all to consider something. Moving on from a relationship you shouldn't have been in. It's really messy, okay? It's really messy. It requires you to look in the mirror and say, I got this wrong. But there is so much power in that. Because once you admit you made the wrong choice, you become free to finally make the right one. Not just in a partnership, but in a relationship and how you treat yourself. A healthy conclusion isn't about erasing the past. It's about accepting it, learning from it, and walking away a little wiser and a lot more self aware. So, if I could say anything to you all today, as I'm on this journey of healing and self exploration, even though it's uncomfortable, it's necessary. And as I watch these podcasts and I listen to all of these relationship experts and, all of these men who are telling women what to have, what to expect, what not to expect. And I'm listening to women instruct other women of how to treat men. And there's so much advice out here. There is so much advice. But if I could just put a little coin in the bucket that seems to be, traveling the internet, I would say the best thing that any of us can do is go on our own personal journey of self-discovery. You have to learn who you are because you cannot bring any end of a relationship to a healthy conclusion if you are unaware of the dysfunction that resides in you. So, with that being said, because I don't want to hold you too long, thank you for listening to me tonight. Thank you for being a part of my journey. And if you're struggling with with a relationship right now, if you're struggling with the end of a relationship right now, be patient with yourself. You're exactly where you need to be. And I hope that I've said something to you that will help you on your journey because God knows you tuning in is helping me on mine. So I will see you next week. Don't forget to tune in on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. I will be back to give you a little bit more of my own personal healing journey. If you haven't done it already, I need you to go ahead, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so that you can be a part of the next conversation. As always, it is an honor and a privilege to be able to share with you. And I pray that you have been blessed and that you will continue to prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. I love you all. And we'll talk again next week.